Hi, welcome to this drawing series, Draw Your Design, where we're going to combine our human design with NeuroGraphica. And I'm so excited that you are willing to experiment with me on this journey. I want to open up this document as a few talking points to share, just so we can get our human design sort of fresh in the field. These are slides that I've made from teaching human design for many years, and if this is new to you, if human design is new to you, I would like you to take a loving approach towards yourself with human design. There is a lot of human design out there that um, could be more empowering. I will say that. So, my goal is to empower you with the truth of your design and also the truth that comes through for you through NeuroGraphica. So these are just some points that I share. Take a kind and understanding approach to your relationship with yourself. Trust the process. Investigate human design inwardly. Make this commitment to understand yourself better. This is a revolutionary act of love that the whole world benefits from. No one has authority over you. You are a free person. Reclaiming your trust in your own authority is a process and it's worth it. Take your time. Be present to your experience. Let it emerge. Let it unfold. Share with us what you learn and you can speak as yourself. This is such an important aspect of living as a nine-centered being, that you speak for your own experience. And that is part of what we can share with one another, our unique experience. Now, how to love yourself with NeuroGraphica. This is a method where art and psychology meet, where we can explore deep parts of ourself through drawing by making new neural connections. And this is just some advice that I have, which is to make your life beautiful by drawing, open your mind, push beyond what is familiar, embrace your creativity, and witness your experience. Trust the process. Find solutions. Be prepared to be surprised. Honor yourself and make decisions that support your true nature. Relax and unwind while drawing important themes in your life. Find consistent time to dedicate to your drawing practice. Make space for what you want in life by creating shapes in your drawings. Be the artist. We have 10 principles in NeuroGraphica, and it's always nice to return to these principles as a good foundation for the work that we do. An image integrates meaning. Meanings contain state of mind. A problem is the product of the mind. The solution has a bionic quality. Harmony leads to satisfaction. The universe fits on the tip of a marker. Any task has a graphical solution. Drawing has no boundaries. The world is made up of shapes and lines. And drawing is easy. Here's a look at my human design chart. You can see that I have quite a lot of definition in my chart. I have 3 islands of definition, which just means these colored in parts that are consistent within me. There's actually 3 of these islands, and that makes me what they call a triple split. So I'm a manifesting generator with a profile 1-3. It's good for me to get to the bottom of things and then share that foundation with others. And I like to do that in a creative way by letting people know what works. So I hope you will take my advice about what works in this case. You know, as a triple split, it's really important for me to circulate with other people and be around many auras, the public aura, because it helps me connect all these parts of myself. And then I'm able to, access the truth in myself in that way. Now, what we're going to talk about today is authority. You know, in my design, I am a sacral being with this defined sacral here, making me a generator. Because I have a motor connected to the throat, that makes me a manifesting generator, which is a subtype of generator. It just means that, the way manifesting generators get things done is not really in a straight line. It's more kind of here and there, and it can look a little chaotic from the outside, but ultimately getting a lot done. Manifesting generators can get a lot done. And I will know what I should be doing, what will bring me satisfaction by listening to my sacral definition, to my response when things come to me. They're either a or And I really work in this very simple way. And so allowing myself the process to let things come to me, pulling things to me, and then giving myself the opportunity to respond to opportunities, offers, relationships, friendships, places to go, all kinds of things. They come to me, and then it gives my energy a chance to respond. And I'm either like, my energy rises, and I know that I'm going to have the energy to meet that demand, and I want to, and that will be satisfying for me. If I have a feeling that's kind of like heavy and it's like, ugh, or then I know that's a no. And then I have to follow through on that for my own good. So that's one kind of authority. And all of us have a personal authority, our voice of truth. This personal authority exists within us, and it's our birthright to have this part of us that speaks with our best interest at heart. And depending on your type and depending on your definition, you'll have a different way to access that authority. How do we listen to that voice of truth? How do we get to know those directions? Well, let's just touch for a minute on the authorities that exist in human design. There's quite a few. You can see that starting here, we've got someone with no centers defined, complete openness, which just means, so many different energies can come through this being and access and turn on these gates and move these energies through. This person here, this is a reflector, and they have a lunar personal authority, which seems probably pretty complicated to some other styles, but the basis of it is because they're so connected to the moon and this process of the moon moving through all the different gates in a month. This is the most consistent thing that they can learn to experience and track and make decisions on that lunar cycle. That's what it means to allow decisions to move through their body mind. And at the end of that lunar cycle, there will be some clarity or some understanding, some surprise. There will be some reason, they'll understand by giving themselves all that time what their next step is. So we're not here to rush these reflectors. They work in their own time, and they provide for us, humanity, a really special gift, which allows them to uplift the rest of us. Going ahead, we have this style here, an environmental personal authority. This is a type of projector. This is someone who is accessing personal authority through the environment and how they feel in different places, and accessing their truth by how they hear themselves communicate. Self-projected inner authority. This is somebody that is a projector that also has a G center defined. That G center means that they have a consistent access to their identity and direction regardless of environment. And when they talk to other trusted people and they talk about the decisions that they're going to make. They can hear the quality of their own truth by their own voice as they share with a trusted person. The ego inner authority, we have projectors or manifestors that can be ego inner authority. And that's when we have this heart center, the little triangle is defined, but none of the other gates are defined. And this ego center, this heart center, ultimately has a lot of relationship to value and personal sense of worth. So somebody with this authority actually has definition and consistent access to that sense of value and worth and willpower. And so their inner authority will tell them, will ask the question, what's in it for me? And if they can see that there is something in it for them, then they can go ahead with that. So they can, it's a kind of enlightened self-serving that serves this person. And often in life, that will not be the experience. This will not be what was cultivated in them from other people. We're not really taught to grow up thinking about ourselves in this way. But if these ones do, this really helps them steer themselves in places with relationships, with opportunities that can be supportive of who they really are. Especially projectors to be recognized, for their value. This is important for the ego inner authority. And then if someone has the spleen defined, but nothing else, then this is a person with splenic inner authority. And the spleen is very quick and fast, instinctual. It speaks once, it does not repeat itself. So moment to moment, it will send signals. The sacral inner authority is for generators with what I described earlier, the these sort of guttural noises that naturally come from sacral beings, really connect with the truth in that way. Following where there is a response is important because generator beings have a certain amount of energy available to them every day, and it works best if they can exhaust that energy at things that are satisfying to them. So they want to use up all that energy throughout the day and go to bed at night knowing that they spent their energy, their valuable life force energy, on things that really matter to them. And then we have a solar plexus inner authority. This is anybody with an emotional authority will have the solar plexus defined. You could have an emotional projector, an emotional manifestor, an emotional generator. It means that for them, decisions are on a wave, an emotional wave of truth, which means they have to experience all along that wave, all the good and the bad, all the up and the down, all the possibilities that could happen with a decision. And just as that emotion moves through them, they get to witness all these different perspectives. And another way we say that is there is no truth in the now. It can be someone can say, yes, I really want to do that. And they're at the top of their emotional wave. They're like really pumped. And then a few days later, or maybe a week later, they're at the bottom of that wave. And now they're experiencing the flip side of that. Oh, why did I agree to this? This looks like a lot of work, or I don't really want to spend time with those people, but I already said I would. This is part of this emotional clarity that develops over time. There's really no way to rush emotional clarity. If you are an emotional being, you are here to teach us all patience. We all benefit with patience for emotional clarity to sort of penetrate. And that emotional clarity can come by time and then sharing in the right moment what feels like the next step. So these are authorities. You probably remember your authority from your reading, so just keep that in mind. A slide that I like is that there are these three centers that never participate in decision making. The head center, which is, where we have all this mental pressure to figure things out, a lot of people live from this place and they're not accessing these other forms of awareness deeper within the body. The mind has all kinds of ideas about what we should be doing, but that is not necessarily where our authority is. And that authority, that voice of truth within you, that is the voice we want to listen to. The throat as well can be very connected and say all kinds of things, say and do all kinds of things, but that's not necessarily where the truth of authority is either. And then this root center, this adrenal pressure, which pressures us to get things done, depending on whether you're open or defined there, how you deal with that pressure as a human being. Making decisions from a pressured place don't usually lead us to satisfaction or peace either. But it's important to know that that pressure is there, both mentally and adrenaline wise. And we are dealing with that pressure somehow. If you have definition, then you have a kind of consistent way that you deal with that pressure. Here's a couple keynotes about the different authorities, just to touch on them lightly. We want to make decisions based on our design, and we will talk a little bit more about type and strategy next week. But you're going to be one of the four types, and then you're going to operate based on that type, utilizing your authority to make decisions. And basically, all human design, there's so many things you can study, so many rabbit holes to experience in human design. But the basis, like the important thing about human design, is this strategy and authority, how to make decisions for yourself, especially in a world where less and less can be trusted by our eyes or by what we read, by groups, systems. We can see that the world is changing and a lot of these systems, are just kind of falling apart. All the more reason that we have this foundational strength inside of us to make decisions based on this strategy and authority. Okay, so what I want to draw today is called an ARI. Traditionally, an ARI means the algorithm for revealing intentions, and we can draw this algorithm when we don't really know what our topic is. In this case, I want to just try this a little bit differently than the traditional method. I want to use the topic of authority as our jumping in point. And I want to do this formula as a way to connect us on all these levels with this felt sense of authority. So take out your paper and we're going to make topic 1.0 authority. And in the 2 minutes, we really want to think about, what does this mean for you? Like, what does having personal authority inside of you really mean? And what does it mean to live from that place of truth? And that's our topic. So, topic 1.0, authority. Okay, I'm going to set the timer. Okay. And we're going to do words in 2 minutes. Let me just start the timer. Oh. Okay. Just take a look at your words and what you can gather from some of the words that you have. Notice if any of the words repeat or seem to stand out. For me, touching into authority, what do I feel? It's like this place inside of me that at this point in my life, I just can't deny. I can't go against what is true for me, especially through a sacral response. So being in touch with my authority is like really about being present in my life, moment to moment, and responding from that place. So you can go through and you can just count up your words. As long as you have 18 or more, I would say that we're doing pretty good in getting some neural connections. Mhm. You can just write that down and just take note of how you feel. Like, how does it look on the page? I have a lot of energizing words, a lot of life affirming words, power words, and that's really what the sacral is about, life force energy. And how it makes me feel. Like, I feel really happy and like empowered, and I feel excited to be sharing this. And, in my body, I feel warm and secure, and I actually like really feel this. It's almost like a warm heat in the lower torso of the body. So I know I'm feeling really grounded and in the body. And what does it all mean? It just means that I'm in the right place at the right time right now. So let's go now to our step 2, which is about composition. And you're going to take your drawing paper for that. And with the drawing paper, what we're going to do is we're going to capture, with this drawing, we're going to capture where the energy is at. And in this case, the energy that we're after is this energy of the authority, the voice of truth, and just make a relationship with it. So the first thing I want you to do is you're going to choose a marker. I have a kind of um, fine marker tip, and I have a fine liner that can be thinner later. So I'm gonna go with this one. What I'd like you to do first is to draw yourself a frame. Now, the frame just allows us to really focus our energy within the frame on our topic. And, just keep that neurographic line going. Don't let anything repeat itself. Just be fluid and bionic. And you've done other neurographic drawings, so you know that there are 8 steps in the basic algorithm. We're going to move some of those steps around a little bit in this drawing, and how we're going to do that is we're going to be drawing field lines moving across. So just keep that neurographic line going. Take it in ways that surprise you. Notice what you feel and see on the page. How's it looking to you? Make sure you get some lines crossing. Get enough lines going so that you have some intersections. I'm really thinking about how do I listen to my authority with all this other noise going on? I'm just noticing how I feel. Do I feel like there's enough lines? I think I want to add some more. I'm noticing some physical feelings in my chest, some little bit of tension around my heart and my ribs and in my throat, actually. They kind of look like heartbeats on a machine or mountaintops. Just let your mind kind of show you different images, what this could be. So let me see how many lines we have here. That's 17. I think that's enough. And what I want to do now is I want to look at these areas and see where are the areas where there is the most energy. And I'm going to circle that. Some of the circles will already kind of exist. Like I see this kind of edge here. I'm going to make a circle there. And I'm going to make circles wherever I see a lot of energy. What do you see now? Like little bubbles, little spaceship bubbles. Feeling curious. Have some tickles in my spine at my back, so I know that I'm moving in the right direction here. I feel very satisfied with the composition. So I feel like if you have enough lines and if you've drawn enough circles, we can move forward to step 3, which is conjoining. So noticing all of these places that we've created tension now with our circle, we're going to start within the circles and conjoin. And we're going to work intuitively and quickly. Um, what I mean by that is it's not about being perfect. There's nothing about being perfect here. You're making bionic, natural neural lines. You're moving that life force energy through. That bionic quality is alive, natural. Hmm. Times you can just think about your topic again, which is the topic of your personal authority. Maybe there are times in life where it's been easier to access that than others. And that's why we call it the experiment. Ra, who was the one who shared human design after it was shared with him, even he says, you don't have to believe me. Just live it and see for yourself. The mind can be a faithful servant. It can do a lot of things for us, and it works better if it knows that, there's this authority. Why is authority so important anyway? I have that song in my head suddenly, that one about put up a parking lot. No, don't. I think, if we're not living from our authority and our truth, lots of things can happen right under our nose that don't serve us, that don't serve humanity. That's why I say it's a real act of love to live from this true place. The things that are natural to us that we can bring through our design and our definition, what we bring to the world, those things are so needed by the world. That's why they're gifts. But sometimes we don't self-recognize those gifts, which is why finding ourselves with the right people can make all the difference, the right environment. And the opposite, well, not the opposite, but the flip side of that is that if each of us have our own authority and everyone has their own authority, then we can respect the authority of one another and give people the right timing to be able to access their authority. Knowing human design for so long and being able to live the truth of it has really, benefited me and my relationships. I'm a manifesting generator, but my husband is an emotional generator, which means like when we make decisions together, it's good to be really patient and provide the time so that the emotional clarity which is his authority, has an opportunity to get clear. Not knowing that, I could pressure him to come up with answers or commitments, before he's ready. And that, ultimately is not going to lead to good things. So knowing my design, knowing his design, this has been a great gift to me to, really be able to see on the paper what is valuable for people, through their chart. There's a gate, for example, gate 27. This is the gate with the power to care. These are people that can, especially generators, sustain this life force energy that really cares about humanity. And the other side of that gate, gate 50, has the principles. Like what are the principles that guides this care? And together they make a channel that preserves life. I want to be around people that are here to preserve life through value, you know, that really recognize what is truly valuable. And my authority takes me into situations with people, the right people that care in the right ways. Hmm? And similarly, it tells me when to get out. Are you feeling conjoining your circles? Circles in NeuroGraphica are about harmony and wholeness. They're a very balanced shape. We can use it to harmonize other shapes. How will you know when you're living in your authority? You'll be experiencing your signature as your type. So if you are a manifester, you'll feel peace. As a generator, you'll feel satisfied. A projector will feel recognized. A reflector will be surprised. So why does, not living our authority or following our strategy, for that matter, take us to these not self expressions? So they're like signposts. If I am experiencing a lot of frustration instead of satisfaction, then I know that I've entered into something and maybe I didn't really have that true response to begin with. Yeah. Maybe I just said yes out of habit instead of really accessing the truth of my energy. When you're a capable generator, people are going to ask you to do things all the time. And if you're a manifesting generator, you get things done quickly. So you may even think like, oh, it's no big deal for me to add this on. And sometimes that's true if you have a response to it. And just because you can do things fast and you can do a lot of things doesn't mean everything is for you, which is why listening to that sacral response moment to moment is really going to steer you in the right ways where you're not over taxing your generosity. For projectors, part of the authority, is going to be in different ways. Some projectors are emotional, some are splenic. But, projectors really, the recognition and the invitation comes from the right timing. You know, sharing your gifts in the right timing with people when they're ready for your advice, your vision, what you see, what could be corrected, what could change. When you give people that information, when they are ready for it, that is all the difference between really being recognized and not. If you have a history of, feeling bitter because you've done so much for other people and people just didn't get it, they didn't see it for what it was, they didn't recognize the gift that you were providing, then chances are you were sharing before you were really recognized. And that can be so painful. So, how do you get to be the guide that you can be and really help the ones that are ready? Well, you wait until that other person is looking for that thing, that answer, that next step. Then your solution can be received. They can take it in. How are you doing with your conjoining? I'm just going through this outer frame. I'm not so focused on what happens on the outside, but in that frame, I want to ensure all my intersections are conjoined. Hmm. You know, there's so many kinds of personal wisdoms that we have, and the human experience is so unique. And children, can benefit so much from receiving the respect of supporting their design. A little kiddo that's a projector, teaching her about the value of the invitation and what it really means to be recognized and invited. That will save so much heartbreak. Projectors really see things deeply, but that doesn't mean they have to work all the time. Hey, they're specialists. Okay, I'm just taking a little review if there's anywhere else that feels like I need conjoining. It. A real planetary feel from my bubbles here. Getting in touch with your authority and then having the follow through. That is the ticket. Okay. So let's say that we have completed step 3, conjoining. And we drew those field lines in the beginning, but we are going to thicken them later for like real true lines, like the traditional way that we do it. Well, there's so much energy moving through our picture here. The next thing to do is to connect our drawing and shapes with each other, these components with each other, and then also the outside world. So thinking about, how do I operate from my authority in the outside world, in society? It's all well and good that I want to be in charge of my life on my own in my house, never having to interact with anybody I don't want to. But how do I take that authority into the world so that, my gifts can be utilized in good ways? My mind is flashing images for me right now of like real high points where, I was so energized by my work, just so, thrilled personally, but also like in the body, so much energy for that work. I could work so much and it was just so satisfying. And, as a generator without satisfying work, I really have a sense of loss, you know? I want to do good work in the world. I'm just connecting some of these circles. I don't necessarily know what all of the circles are. I know that they're strong points of energy. I just want to connect them to each other and also to off the page. And then also following my authority when there was no longer a yes, when I could no longer stick around someplace, could no longer work with certain energies or people. And part of my design is the channel of struggle. And this is about somebody that's gonna really fight for life, knowing through response, in my case, what are the fights worth fighting? And from the outside, sometimes that channel looks like bewildering to other people. Like, why get involved in that fight? What are you doing with that? Why do you want to get involved, But to that person, if they have the authority telling them that that's the fight to put your energy into, there's no stopping them. The satisfaction from fighting for what is worth fighting for, somebody's rights, somebody's health, my own truth. Hmm. We're in step four, integration. This is 4.1, shape and background. So we're drawing what we call these 4.1 neural lines that connects our drawing to society. And you get to decide how many connections there are. I like to make sure things are connected in a lot of ways, so I don't have to worry about that. I can just let them be connected in unconscious ways and then go through and open up those communication channels by harmonizing and conjoining these little intersections. These intersections, when we make a cross, that's considered a point of tension in the mind. And you'll know how many lines feel like enough. After we finish this step, I'm just going to conjoin some of these smaller lines. Then we're going to move into color. As a generator, we are responding to so many things in a day. This is not like a one-shot response. We are responding to everything, what we pick up through our senses, questions, environmental changes, responding to life forms that need our care, responding to plants, responding to nature. And this is Planet Generator. We have, access to this life force, and we are guardians of the life force, hopefully. And then, the manifestors in our lives can initiate something new, something that's never existed before. Projectors can help guide the energy. Projectors can access quite deeply into the G centers of others, really being able to recognize what they're about and who they are, which is why it's so important for projectors to be recognized as well, because one of their gifts is to recognize others. Okay, do I have enough 4.1 lines? I think so. I think I want maybe another one right here. Hmm. Hmm. All right, time to move on to archetyping. So you can work with your markers or your pencil crayons. I'm going to probably work with my markers and then use my pencil crayons in the style step, which is step 7. So choose now some colors to connect concepts and pieces in our drawing. Maybe they don't have names and we don't have to worry about that. The key is to make sure the color is in 2 or more pieces. So nothing is really existing all by itself. So let me just add, I'm going to add this color here. Oh, it's gray. Thought it was purple. Gray, it's a gray purple. Purple to me is kind of mystical. I'm just going to bring that color right through. Using a text highlighter here. It's a really bright color. It just makes me feel that sacral energy, that life force. But in general, pinks always make me feel light. And there's like a vibe, a nice high frequency. Oof, that's very bright. Still feels right to me. And that's purple. Oops. Ooh, that's so colorful. I'm using a different kind of paper and my marker's kind of streaky, but I'm going to fix that later in the style step. I'm not too worried about that right now. Mhm. How does it feel to be adding color to your drawing? I'm actually noticing, like physically, some tension in my shoulder and my neck, thinking about all this authority, thinking about responsibilities. I like to overlap colors, and you can do that as long as it's not the only color by itself. I like to have a little bit of white space, a little open space, just like in human design. That's where so many things can come in from the outside, things that we are learning about, where we're gaining wisdom. That's really what the openness is. The parts of us that are defined and consistent, we meet the open world with that definition. And that's how we gain wisdom in areas because we have to try, what works in all this openness. Okay, so now we're just looking at our drawing and we've done step 4, 4.2 archetyping. So now we're on step 5, which is field lines. So what we want to do is we want to grab a thicker marker and we're going to expand some of these field lines and bring in some universal energy. So field lines in NeuroGraphica we can consider them like a river of energy from the universe itself, like some good energy for us, some unspoken support. Yeah, some loving, unseen support. So just looking at your drawing, you get to decide where you want to expand these field lines. I'm just going to go across some places where I already see it. And I'm going to thicken those up. Yeah. And you can decide how many field lines you want to bring in. We need to always have at least 2 on a drawing. And you can follow a line or you can veer off a line that you've already made. And your field line should look thicker than the other lines. So I think I need to make mine even more visible. You want to look at your picture and have no doubts about where that field line is traveling. That's better. You can really see it there. And I feel like I need one here also. Thank you, Life Force Energy. I will take some support in my endeavors. It's nice to think that the universe wants you to be living in your authority. The universe wants you to make decisions that serve who you really are, so you can fulfill your gifts. Okay, so I see 3 field lines, and as long as you know where your field lines are, that's the best thing. I can look on my paper and really see them. So you could have more. You could have more than 3 if you wanted to. You could have an unlimited, really, amount of field lines. Normally, we just need 2 or more. Hmm. Okay. Great. So how do you feel adding the field lines? What does it do for you inside of your body mind? What do you see on the page? What do you see in your mind's eye? Now we go to step 6, which is the affixing shape. This is the focus circle. So we consider it the solution to our drawing. So somewhere here, there's a circle that you want to thicken, highlight, and really draw attention to. It can be any shape, but we try to stick to circular shapes in the beginning because we're trying to bring more and more harmony. So you could see a shape here that's circular and you could make it, and then you're going to make it the thickest line on your paper. Or maybe there's a circle that's kind of calling you as the focus point already. And so you want to thicken those borders of the circle. So I'm just going to be quiet for a minute and see which part is speaking to me. Okay, so right away I got this sense of this circle right here. So I'm just gonna go with it. And I'm gonna expand this this line to be the biggest line that I have, the thickest. And I'm gonna neurograph this edge. I'm just creating this circle here first. Ooh, okay. So now that I've created that thick line, I want to conjoin it to the rest of my drawing. So sometimes I start in the middle and round out and then move to the outside. Okay. Now I'm just gonna use my little pen to finish up, you know, take care of any little distracting bits. And now we are in the style step, which is, where you get to really be the artist and add to the drawing in a way that really speaks to you. So I like to add some pencil crayons at this point, and I like to add some focus to my fixing shape. I like to find like contrast so it really pulls my eye in. Hmm. And style step is really about fine tuning. You know, if you see some lines that could be more conjoined or balanced, you can do that. I might take some pencil crayons to these other lines to create some kind of shading. You know, when you're adding this color, you are bringing energy to your life. So, you know, let yourself enjoy adding that color. Decisions, decisions. I'm going to bring some red across here. So we're going to move ahead now to the last step. I want you to finish your drawing in your own timing. You might want to take a break from your drawing and then come back and add a little bit more. You can take your notebook out. And now we're on step 8, which is topic 2.0. So our topic 1 was authority, and you can keep that same topic, or if something has bubbled up inside of you through this process today and you want to explore that topic, you would do that here. So, for example, maybe it's a human design word and you're thinking about your response, as a generator. So maybe you want to do words in 2 minutes on that. Or maybe you're thinking about one of your signatures, which is, to feel peaceful or something. I'm going to stick with authority here, and I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes and just keep free associating with this word, authority. Go. Hey. Whew. All right, so we did it. The uh, list that you have, you can count up those words and take a look. I can see that, like I have this word here, which is responsibility. And as a generator, it is my response that really guides me in the world. But it's also my responsibility to ensure that I'm living from my authority. Like no one else can do that for me, right? So I hope that this exercise has given you a lot to think about. I hope you're contemplating your own authority and how that operates in your life. And next week, we're going to draw something else. So thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Thanks.